suppose that you save up all your money and you buy yourself a brand new bike for, let's say, $150. The very next day, your friend comes over to see your brand new bike. And he comes riding in on his 20-year-old rusty paint-chipped bike. And after he checks it out, he does something silly. He offers to trade you his bike for your brand new bike. Would you think that's a good trade? Absolutely not. Now, what if instead someone came up to you and said, I'll trade you $10,000 for your brand new bike? That'd be a great trade, right? In Matthew chapter 13, Jesus told two very short parables about two men who made great trades. And these stories, they're meant to point us to a type of trade, really the best trade of all. What could that be? Well, let's read it here in Matthew chapter 13, starting in verse 44. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up. Then in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls, who on finding one pearl of great value, went and sold all that he had and bought it. In these two stories, we have two men who are willing to sell everything that they own. They trade in everything they have in order to receive something better. Here, Jesus compares these two trades, one for the treasure in the field and the other for the pearl of great value. He compares them to the kingdom of heaven. What does that mean? Well, let's look at two other stories, two true stories about men who actually did something just like these men in Jesus' parables. While walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Immediately, they left their nets and followed him. Keep reading, it says, and going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James the son of Zebedee and John his brother, in the boat with Zebedee their father, mending their nets. And he called them. Immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Now let's look at Luke chapter 5, starting in verse 27. After this, he went out and saw a tax collector named Levi, sitting at a tax booth. And he said to him, "Follow me." And leaving everything, he rose and followed him. So here we have Peter, Andrew, James, John, and Matthew, or Levi. And what do? They left everything they had behind to follow someone. And that someone was who? None other than Jesus. You think, why would they do this? Well, they did it because they rightly understood that Jesus was more valuable and precious than anything else. That he's better than all of their worldly possessions. He's better than their jobs. He's better than even their families. See, to them, Jesus was worth giving up everything else for. Here's what the Apostle Paul explained in Philippians chapter 3. Verse 8, he says, "Indeed, I count everything as loss because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord. For his sake I have suffered the loss of all things and count them as rubbish in order that I may gain Christ." The Apostle Paul knew that knowing and following Jesus was of surpassing worth, or of greatest worth. Just think for a minute how important your family is to you. Think about how valuable your friends are to you. Jesus is millions of times more important and millions of times more valuable. Everything else, even the good things God has given to us can't even compare to how much he is worth. So, how should we act towards God? What would show that you truly believe that he is worth more than anything else? 3 quick things. 1, because God is most valuable, he deserves our greatest love. I'm sure that Peter and Andrew, James and John, they loved and enjoyed their fishing business. I'm sure Matthew enjoyed all the extra money that he was pocketing as a tax collector. I'm sure that James and John, they loved their father. I mean, think about how much you love your parents and how much parents you love your children and grandchildren. Well, Jesus, he deserves to be loved even more. Mark 12:30 says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength." Second, because God is most valuable, he also deserves our obedience. That's why when Jesus called these men, when he said, "Hey, follow me," what did they do? They obeyed. John 14:15, Jesus says, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments." And then lastly, because God is most valuable, he deserves our worship. That word worship, it means our greatest admiration, our awe, or respect. It should all be for God. Our loudest cheering should be for God. Our best singing and praising should be for God. We should always recognize and feel that God is worth more to us than everything else in this world. So when we say that God is worthy, that means he's the most valuable and deserves our greatest love, obedience, and worship. The author of Hebrews says in Hebrews 12, "Let us be grateful for receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, and thus let us offer to God acceptable worship with reverence and awe." It's so easy for us to get caught up and distracted by so many things here on this earth. But at the end of the day, we should willingly give up all of those things without hesitation for our great God. Sadly, I think if we were all honest, we don't always do that. But we should, because he is worth it.